All right, today we're diving deep into a high-stakes hypothetical war game, a coordinated US and Israeli preemptive strike designed to completely cripple Iran. We're going to break down the strategy, the incredible tech involved, and of course the potential fallout. Let's get right into it. So let's set the scene. The year is 2026. The day, February 28th. And just to be clear, this isn't some history lesson. This is a look into a potential near-future conflict, one where the very rules of war are being rewritten by technology. So it really boils down to this one huge question that military planners are wrestling with. How do you possibly deliver a blow so fast, so completely overwhelming, that your enemy is paralyzed before they even know what hit them? The answer? Well, it lies in a tactic that is just devastatingly complex. And that answer is a military concept called time on target. Now, this isn't just about launching a bunch of missiles at once, no. This is like mathematical choreography on a global scale. Just try to picture it. You've got jets, ships, maybe even submarines all firing at totally different times from completely different places, but their weapons are timed with such deadly precision that they all impact at the exact same instant. So what does that look like on the ground? Well, the result of this time-on-target tactic is just pure, unadulterated shock and awe. One moment, everything's normal. The very next second, the entire country's strategic backbone, we're talking industrial hubs in Karaj, the capital in Tehran, the ideological heartland of Qom, even the nuclear programs down in Isfahan, is hit at the exact same time. The goal? Total systemic shock. Okay, but a massive, synchronized assault like this, it's not just about blowing things up randomly. Not at all. This attack was driven by two very distinct yet overlapping missions. You can think of it as a two-pronged attack. On one hand, you had the US with Operation Epic Fury. Their goal was pretty broad: neutralize Iran's military and its most important industrial assets. But Israel's mission, Operation Roar the Lion, had a much sharper point. It was a classic decapitation strike, aimed right at the top, the supreme leader himself. And we are not talking about just lobbing a missile at a palace here. The intelligence they had was insanely specific, targeting the absolute nerve center of the Iranian regime, the Ayatollah's day-to-day offices located in a very sensitive, very specific district of Tehran. But of course, this is where the fog of war just rolls right in. Immediately after the strike, you get two totally different stories. Israeli sources are claiming success, we got him, but then, almost at the same time, an Iranian source claims he wasn't even there. So the compound is a smoking crater, sure, but did they actually get their man? Suddenly, nobody really knows for sure. So you've got to be asking, how in the world do you pull off an attack this big against a heavily defended nation? Well, it didn't start with a bang. It started with an invisible wave of digital disruption. Yeah, long before any missile hits its mark, you have to win the invisible war first. The first step wasn't kinetic, it was electronic. And the idea is pretty simple, right? If your enemy is blind, they can't fight back. And this is some seriously next-level electronic warfare. I mean, don't just think of it as old-school radio jamming. This is more like hacking into their reality, digitally photoshopping what their radar operators are seeing in real time. From space, the sea, and the air, a coordinated digital assault is feeding them false data, creating phantom armies on their screens, and just overwhelming their defenses with pure chaos. And one of the key tools they use to pull this off is something called a MALD. So imagine you're a radar operator, totally overwhelmed, trying to make sense of all this digital noise. These little drones pop up on your screen looking exactly like an incoming squadron of fighter jets. It's an absolutely brilliant trap designed to make Iranian air defense systems reveal their positions, and, in doing so, become targets themselves. So, once the enemy is effectively blinded, the real attack begins, and it comes in three carefully planned waves. First, you kick down the door, with Tomahawk cruise missiles taking out all the radars and command centers. Second, the heavy hitters, the B-2 stealth bombers, go in deep to strike the most hardened targets, like nuclear bunkers. And finally, the fighter jets swarm in to hunt down and destroy anything that's left. It's a systematic dismantling. You really have to see it as a kind of orchestra of destruction, where every single piece had its own specific part to play. The destroyers, they're the ones kicking the door in. The B-2s, they're the sledgehammers for the really tough targets. And the F-15s and F-A-18s, well, think of them as the hunters, the scalpels, going after mobile launchers and any radar that dared to turn back on. But here's the thing about modern warfare. The first strike is never the last word. Iran, even after a hit like that, still has thousands of ballistic missiles and drones. And almost immediately they unleash their own counteroffensive, Operation Truthful Promise 4. And their response is just huge, and it's everywhere. This isn't just about hitting back at Israel. We're talking about U.S. bases across the entire region being targeted. The UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait. In just a matter of hours, the whole Middle East is basically on fire. The conflict escalates, and it escalates dramatically. So what's the end result of this perfectly executed, technologically brilliant first strike? Well, it's a whole region pushed right to the very edge of a much, much wider and more devastating war. And we can't lose sight of just how incredibly difficult this whole thing was to begin with. This one number right here tells you so much of the story. 1,240 miles. That is the one-way trip for those Israeli jets. Think about the logistics, the complex aerial refueling, navigating through hostile airspace. The risk involved is just absolutely immense. This whole massive operation was designed to be that one perfect, decisive blow, the knockout punch. But it leaves us with a really tough question, doesn't it? In this new age of warfare, can a first strike, no matter how powerful or perfectly planned, ever truly be the final word? Or is it always just the opening act for something far, far worse?